What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Appreciate you taking some time to join me today. If you have not already subscribed, I'm not going to have any crazy flashing things in front of your screen. If you like what you come and see and listen to every day, do me a favor, please subscribe. It means a ton. It certainly helps me out. If this is your first time, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you will appreciate these episodes. If you haven't been checking out my draft breakdowns, I'll be doing a lot more. I've done a lot of them already, so make sure to go back and check those out as well. But today is officially Drake London Day, so let's jump in and get started right away with Drake London, a very intriguing, very interesting wide receiver. One of the more interesting receivers I think that I have studied over the last handful of seasons, just because he's very unique in how he wins. We'll get to all of that in just a moment. Let's go over the basics first. 6'4", 219, wide receiver out of USC, a true junior. He will turn 21 in July. He turns 21 in July. He can't even drink yet. He is 20 right now. I'm sure he is yet to have a sip of alcohol in any way, shape, or form, but 21 in July, which is absolutely crazy. You know how I love to talk about relative athletic scores and how he tests against other competition and other players at his same position, but unfortunately, he did not do the combine testing, so we have no relative athletic scores to go off of, but we do have some stats to go off of, so we'll go off of that. A really nice season this past year as a junior, 2021, despite missing games, which we'll get to more in just a moment as well. 88 catches, 1,084 yards, 7 touchdowns, a really complete season. And again, had it not been for the injury, would have put up even more numbers and would have really probably been one of the most productive seasons in USC history, which is saying something given the great longevity of wide receivers that have been there and been super talented and gone on to perform very well in the NFL. 2020, he had 33 catches for 502 yards and 3 touchdowns. In 2019, he had 39 catches, 567 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So again, one of the things that you always want to see is that they were able to come in, play at a major school, and make an impact right away. 2019, true freshman, 39 catches, 567 yards, and 5 touchdowns. There was no real insane learning curve. He was able to come in and make an impact immediately. Oh, by the way, in that freshman year, he was also playing basketball for USC. So, following in the footsteps of guys like Julius Peppers, there's not many players who have been able to pull that off, playing both, football and basketball. He then went on to really focus on football, and now here we are as a potential first round and likely first round wide receiver in this year's draft. All right, let's get to our positives right away. I always love seeing when a player is a team captain for their team. And again, not only was he team captain, but he was team captain at age 20. I guarantee you there's guys that are like 23, 24 on that team. And yet here he is as the captain at age 20 in his junior year. That's saying something. And why that is maybe somewhat important to think about is usually that shows great leadership traits, right? Which you can never have enough of in your locker room and out on the field. And then, B, it usually shows a work ethic. Sometimes it's tough for us, working in our basement scouts to, really get into the player really, really well. And that's if you really, one of the reasons I took a bunch of scouting classes, right? With maybe the intent of, trying, probably never would have been successful, but trying to get into NFL scouting. And then Daniel Jeremiah has talked on numerous occasions about the reason he got out of scouting is because it became way less about the player evaluation and watching tape and going and watching the player in person and all those sort of things, and much more about finding a lot about the player from like a background check standpoint of talking to friends and family members, and will this player work hard, and will they succeed, and do they have attitude issues, and just what type of person they are. That became I don't know what the number he was, but a huge percentage of his scouting job became more of that type of work than actually all the fun stuff that we all enjoy of actually breaking down the tape and looking at the player in more detail. And part of that reason is why, it didn't just sound that attractive to me. There was a lot of other reasons. And like I said, even if I went for it, the odds of me actually getting in are beyond slim. But that, ended up being a thing. But it's very hard for us at home to try to get a gauge on a player. So if you see that they are a team captain, you know that, all right, they probably had some of those leadership traits, work ethic traits that will probably help them achieve whatever ceiling that they have because, again, they have the work ethic, leadership, etc., all those intangible qualities. All right, now from an on-the-field standpoint, he is an above-the-rim player. We talked about those basketball traits. The basketball traits translate, and they really show up on tape. This is a player who knows how to box out, who knows how to high point a football. He is a contested catch machine. You know, you throw a ball up to him and more often than not, he's going to come down with it. Body control, timing, like all of the traits in basketball that are important that could potentially translate over to a football field, he has in spades. Leaping ability. Like, go watch him play basketball. He was an impressive dunker as well, again, at 6'4". So all of that translates over. And again, his ability to play above the rim, go up and get the football, makes him a very dangerous player. He had 19 contested catches this past year per Pro Football Focus, which was tops in college football. So it's not just that he has the basketball background. It's that all of those basketball traits carry over to the football field. And it's not just that they carry over, they produce. He is a contested catch machine, and the leaping ability, the ability to high point the football like he's going up and getting a rebound. Again, body control, timing, like with rebounding in basketball, it's all about timing. Like, he has all of that. He has it in spades. And again, not only does he have the traits, it shows up on tape, it translates, and it results in major production. So you love to see those traits show up on tape. Now, so many of these contested catch players I have immediately fallen out of love with. The Laquan Treadwells, the N'Keal Harrys, like those type of players who are not gaining separation and are have to be ultra focused on being contested catch guys. Those type of players are very in vogue at the moment because this is the league of separation. We'll touch base on that more in just a moment as well. But it's just so hard in the NFL to live as just a contested catch guy. And if Drake London was just a contested catch guy, I would say I'm out. Like, I don't want anything to do with it. Certainly not in the first round. But I see a lot more from Drake London than just contested catches. You will see him get separation. You will see him show nuance at route running at times. You will see him be able to win deep with separation, not just jump ball ability. You do see him used almost as a slot, almost not a gadget player. It's not like they're handing him off the ball a ton and doing those sort of things, but like a lot of bubble screens. You will see it, and then his ability to make people miss and run through tackles, like all of those things. He showed me so much more than just a contested catch guy. JJ Arcega-Whiteside, another one. Like, those guys are great contested catch guys in college. If that's all you can do is win with just that, and you have to you be hyper focused on just that aspect of your game and be so good at it, you're just not going to succeed at a high level in the NFL. Very few have. And that's why, at first I'm like, oh, I'm not sure. And then you watch more and more of his game and you realize he has a lot more to his game than just that one ability. But that one ability, he's phenomenal at. And then now he's adding all of these other elements to his game. And that's why he's such an interesting, unique wide receiver. And that's why he's legitimately considered a top 20 pick in this draft. Now, when we talk about being more than just a contested catch guy, right? Part of that is being able to make guys miss after the catch and run through contact. So many of these possession type receivers are exactly that. They are possession receivers. They're catching the ball over the middle, but they're not guys that can make you miss. There are very few 6'4" guys that one of their key traits is run after the catch ability. Now, it might be that they have the speed, right? It might be that if they're on a runway and they can run away from people. But Drake London, yes, he has those long strides. Speed is not the name of his game, but he has long strides. But more importantly, he can make people miss in the open field, and he can run through tackles. He is a very tough runner. He fights for extra yards. He goes to break tackles, but he has great first moves and great instincts in his run after the catch ability as well. And again, that makes him such a unique player, and that's why they used him so much on those bubble screens. How many times have you seen a 6'4" guy that's more of a possession jump ball specialist be used on a bunch of wide receiver screens and bubble screens and those sort of things. It just doesn't happen that often, but London pays them off with, again, great run after catch ability, either via making people miss or by running through them, which is a huge aspect of his game and something that he adds on top of, again, his 1A trait, which is the ability to go up and get the football at an incredibly high level. Again, we talked about this with the run after catch ability, but his awareness and his instincts, he gets it. And again, I think that's probably why he's a captain and is a leader on this team. He just knows how to play football. And there are times where you have these rare athletes that can do rare stuff on the field. We've seen other basketball players. Now, we've seen people try to transition from basketball to football. That's not Drake London. He's a football player that also played basketball. But you see these guys who have these basketball skills and they get on a football field and they don't know the game that well, or you're just trying to take raw skills and make them into a football player, but they're just not a football player, right? Not Drake London. He gets the game. He understands it. He knows the weaknesses. He knows how to be a feel for like sitting down in zones, how to get open, run after the catch, blocking angles. Like, he just gets all of it. And again, at age 20, which is that much more impressive. And again, why he's considered one of the top prospects in this year's draft. How about scramble drill? Again, we've talked about this with other receivers. He will find ways to get open, and I'll kind of combine this with another one, but not only does he find ways to get open and keep himself alive on the scramble drill, but he is the ultimate bailout guy. Like, every quarterback, especially, I know Aaron Rodgers is clearly not a young quarterback, but like every young quarterback needs a bailout guy. Like, every quarterback would love a bailout guy. Drake London is a bailout guy. You're in trouble and there's 3 guys coming at you, you throw it up to Drake London. If he's one-on-one, throw it up to Drake London, and more often than not, he's going to come down with the ball, which is going to make things very complicated for defenses. And again, you think of that sort of skill set, the ability to go up and, just make a play on the ball. If Rodgers is in trouble or if he needs to make a play, nothing's open, he starts gaining that trust in Drake London. That makes things a lot more complicated and a lot more difficult for defenses if they can get that type of playmaking ability down the field, on the outside, etc. Red zone, of course, right? Anytime you've got this 6'4" wide receiver who has great leaping ability, contested catch, high pointing the ball, back shoulder fades, he is a machine at. Back of the end zone fades, he is a machine at. He can run routes. He's beaten people really clean on slant routes. Again, you want this guy in the red zone, and he's going to be an absolute weapon for you, and it's just going to really add to your red zone package with all the different things that you're able to do with them. You want to play off, again, there's just so many things. And again, even if he's covered, throw it up, back shoulder fade, he's going to adjust to the ball, find a way to get it, and he's going to be a touchdown machine in those situations. He has the ability to win versus man, win versus zone, and win to all levels of the field. Play speed is much better than what I think he would have tested at. I know some people are maybe more concerned about his speed. I don't have any concerns over it. His game speed is good. And you see him be able to run away from players with his long strides at times. He's not going to be like this burner that's separating with, 4.3 speed on the outside, but his speed plays, and the fact that he's such a great, contested catch receiver, has a huge frame. He's giving the quarterback such a huge catch radius. He doesn't need a ton of separation. And again, you will see plays where he does have that separation. And again, to me, he has plenty enough speed to be a top receiver with all the other traits that he possesses. And then the last positive that I'll say here is, if you're a quarterback, you want to throw to Drake London. Like, if I'm a quarterback and I'm in a game, like, I'm looking Drake London, like, I want to feed him the football. I want to throw him the ball because I just feel like good things are going to happen almost every single time. And that's a great feeling to have as a quarterback. And I think he will quickly, maybe of almost any receiver in this draft, earn the trust of Aaron Rodgers. He's going to have to become more nuanced at route running, which is, again, the case with any wide receiver. He's going to have to learn the playbook. And Aaron Rodgers, all of his little details that he has, he's going to have to learn all of that. That's going to be true for any rookie wide receiver. But I think he will earn the trust of Aaron Rodgers maybe quicker than any other receiver in this draft. Before we get to negatives, there's a couple neutral things. His route running, there's some positives and some minuses. He's got great balance. He takes good angles, but he's not the most diverse route runner. His route tree isn't that diverse. He doesn't vary his speeds very well. His footwork off the line of scrimmage can use work. So there's some positives there, but there's some definite things that he has to work on. And then blocking is sort of a neutral as well. There are times that he shows his physicality, he will take great angles to the football, and he will work hard at it. There are other times where defenders will just kind of work through him, and he's not quite as physical at the point of attack as you would really like to see him. But overall, I think it's probably more of a net positive than a net negative for a wide receiver. But based on his size and his frame, and as he adds more bulk, I think it's something they can absolutely get better at moving forward. All right, how about negatives? The biggest one is probably the fact that he fractured his ankle in 2021 towards the end of the season. So he's going to have to work back from injury, and you never want to see a wide receiver who fractured an ankle. And then I mentioned he can win all over the field, but he has sort of had specialized spots where he's lined up at. In 2019 and in 2020, he played almost primarily, not almost, but he played primarily in the slot, almost entirely in the slot in those 2 seasons. And then 2021, he played almost entirely at left wide receiver. In fact, outside right wide receiver in 3 seasons, he only has 35 snaps. So that's going to be something that he has to be a little bit better at, is his diversity and where he lines up on the field. And there is some legitimate question, and I think this is a fair question, as to whether or not his best position is as a bigger inside slot receiver, almost like a move tight end that's lining up in that spot and getting open and being a dangerous weapon inside. And I think it's a fair question. I do think he can win on the outside. I do think it's something that, he can ultimately still be very good at. However, I wonder if his best position isn't as a bigger slot wide receiver. Not like I'm not saying he's a tight end, but like as a bigger move player on the inside. And if that's the case, again, Green Bay doesn't have, a ton of need for that type of player. So he's going to, Green Bay would really want to see him be able to show up on the outside as well. Next up is his size profile. And this is a great note from Ben Fennell. If you're not following his draft work this offseason, make sure to do so. I think it's on 33rd Team. I don't know the exact website, but check it out. Ben's just amazing. But he noted that over the last 20 years, guys in the 6'4" to 6'6" range who are 200 to 220 pounds have gone to exactly 1 Pro Bowl. In the last 20 years, 1 Pro Bowl combined. His size, strength, speed, weight, etc. profile is completely going out of style. We have seen bigger wide receivers who have fallen in the draft. Hakeem Butler is a great example of that type of wide receiver. These receivers have to be able to separate. And as I mentioned, London shows that ability, but it's not his 1A. We, as I mentioned earlier, are in the age of separation at wide receiver. There is a reason that Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, and Tyreek Hill just got massive new contracts, because they are 3 of the best separators in all of football. Arguably, in like the history of football, you would start putting those 3 guys on the lists. That's how good they are. That's why they're getting paid. If you can gain separation, you make it so much easier for your quarterback. And one of the things that is happening, and I think Aaron Rodgers was legitimately sort of the start of this trend, but Rodgers does not throw into coverage. He's not a contested catch thrower. Like, you will see it from time to time where he'll give Adams or Lazard or a guy he really trusts an opportunity to go make a jump ball opportunity, James Jones at times. But overall, Rodgers wants clear passing lanes and separation so that he can put the ball on the money and not have to have any fear of interceptions. He knows that if you get open, he'll put the ball in the right spot, and then there's no fear of turnovers, which we know he is very turnover averse. So he's not a guy that throws into contested catch situations more often than not. And we are seeing that more often throughout the NFL. We are in an age where turnovers are a lot of times the differentiator in a game. And a lot of times the biggest way you can get turnovers is by some of those contested catch situations where a ball gets tipped and deflected, or, a guy just doesn't go up and make the play. The defender makes a better play. Those are opportunities for turnovers that could completely swing the game. So more and more quarterbacks are staying away from those type of throws. So he's going to have to show that, again, he's not just a contested catch, and I don't think he is, but that is the primary part of his game. And those type of receivers have been not as coveted as they have been earlier in 90s and early 2000s. Lately, just you haven't seen those players go quite as early in the draft or have as much success as the guys who are just great route runners and separators from that standpoint. He had 1 big year of productivity, which is at least worth noting. His top end speed isn't great, although, on tape, again, the play speed is good, but it's not This is not a 4.3, low 4.4 40 guy. He's just not. He had 8 drops in 2021, which is not great. So that's something, even though he's got great hands, great contested catch ability, you want to see him clean some of that up. 46% of his career receptions were within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. 46%. So even though he is this deep ball contested catch guy, he made his living within the first 5 yards, which again is an interesting dynamic for Drake London. That was by far and away the most, 6% more than even the next biggest, next top prospect in this draft. So that is something that, he's going to have to show that he can ultimately win to all levels of the field. The traits show he can, the tape shows he can, but it's interesting nonetheless that 46%, by far the most of any top prospect in this class, were within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. Also, 12.3 yards per catch, not bad, but you would ideally like to see that closer to 15 plus. If you're drafting a receiver in the top 20, you want him to be a big-time playmaker, somebody that can take the ball and explode at any moment and take it the distance. 12.3, not terrible, but not great either. And then I question, I think no matter what, Drake London's going to be a good receiver. I think his floor is very, very high. I would be pretty surprised if he got to the league and it's just we can't use this guy. I just don't think that's going to be the case. Even if he just becomes a red zone weapon, there's so much value in that alone. There will be ways to win with Drake London. I can't imagine him just busting and being a terrible player overall. But I do question if he can ever become that true number one guy and instead maybe just be a really nice piece of your offense. And maybe he's a number one, but you've got him as your possession and then another guy's your speed and another guy's your slot. And he's more of one of your overall receivers. But again, if you're picking somebody in the top 20, you want somebody that you feel pretty confident of can really turn themselves into a top 15 receiver in the NFL. Can he become that? Yes. Will he? I'm a little bit more on the fence with. I don't think, and that does it for my scouting report, so just kind of wrap things up here. I don't think it's a lock that he's gone by pick 22. And again, a lot of that is because these type of receivers have not been in vogue and have been a little out of style lately. I think there is a possibility that he could fall to that range. And if he does, I think Green Bay would have interest. I don't think he has their ideal athletic profile. We're not going to know for sure because he's not going to test everything. But other than that, the age, the size, route running abilities getting there, the ability to play in the slot, play some outside. I think Aaron Rodgers would really enjoy playing with him. I think this is a really interesting option, and I think he would fit really well within a Matt LaFleur offense. I think he'd fit very, very well in a Matt LaFleur offense. So there's some interesting traits there. There's some interesting scheme fits there. Whether he gets that far, I know most people think he will not. So people listening to this may think I'm crazy to say that I think he could potentially last to 22. There's a lot of people that think he goes top 10. So could be much ado about nothing, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. And I think that there's an off chance that Drake London could be a Green Bay Packer, maybe around pick 22. That's going to do it for me today. Always appreciate you joining me. I'll be right back here tomorrow with an all new episode. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.